So how many of us really know what inflation is? We've been told repeatedly that inflation is the increase in the price of goods over a specified period of time, but let me ask you this. Is this really true? Does it really cost more in 2018 to produce a gallon of milk, a loaf of bread, or a gallon of gasoline than it did back in the 1950s? I mean, hasn't modern technology allowed us to create more cost-effective ways to produce these products? Shouldn't this make these items less expensive over time, not astronomically more? This has never really made sense to me. So today I wanted to talk about the truth, the real reason for the increase in the cost of the things that we buy every day. And the real reason for the inflation of prices is not what we've been told by the so-called experts. I'm going to explain how this is not just some effective economic factors, but a well-hidden tax handed down by the Federal Reserve, a tax that impacts every single dollar-carrying consumer on the planet. Many financial professionals point to a historic price increase of goods and services, and they call this inflation. And their statement is partially true. It is true that the cost of goods and services has increased over the years, but it's not for the reasons that we've been taught to believe. You can't tell me that it costs more today to build a car, a home, produce a gallon of gasoline, a loaf of bread, or a pound of hamburger meat than it did back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. And instead of the actual cost of production for these products pushing prices higher each year, I'm here to point out a fact that's been kept in the shadows for decades, which is this. The value of the dollar, the currency we use to purchase these goods and services, has actually been in a steady decline in value year after year since the creation of the Federal Reserve back in 1913. When the purchasing power of the currency declines, the amount of currency it takes to produce goods and services goes up, requiring more dollars to be spent for these same goods and services. Now, I want to propose that the price of a gallon of gasoline or a gallon of milk has stayed the same or even gone down over the past 60 plus years, and the value of the dollar has fallen like a rock over the same time period, causing us to have to pay more dollars for that gallon of gas or that gallon of milk. Now, I know what you're thinking. Dean, this all makes sense, yes, but what does it have to do with taxes? Good question, I'm getting to that. You see, ever since the creation of the Federal Reserve back in 1913, there has been a steady decline in the value of the dollar. A little known fact about the Federal Reserve is that it's actually a private bank. It has very little oversight by any congressional body or our elected officials. The Fed was actually created by several high-profile banking families like the Warburgs and the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the Schiffs, and a few others off the coast of Georgia on Jekyll Island during a secret meeting. This was all done in a collective effort between these bankers for the banks to maintain control of the United States monetary system. Now, today the Fed is known for determining interest rates, setting monetary policy, and probably what they're best known for is printing currency. Now, when currency is printed, it's a well-known fact that they're not shipping it to people like you and me. Instead, it's given directly to the banks, to the US government, and to foreign governments in the form of loans. These loans are made at a predetermined interest rate, creating debt by the borrowing entity. For banks, they can take this money and use it to make more money, making this interest not of great concern to them, especially when they're making billions and billions every quarter. But when the money is given to governments, its source of repayment are always future tax dollars. So basically, whenever cash floods the market, the impact is twofold. Whenever there's a surge in supply of anything into an economy, the immediate effect is the decline in that something's value, and it's no different for currency. A sudden increase in cash not only dilutes the value of the money we are all holding in our banks, our safes, our mattresses, our safe deposit boxes buried in your backyard, but it also creates a tax burden that we're all obligated to repay at some point in the future. When there's a set amount of currency in a market economy, stable prices of goods and services in that economy are expected. That's a good thing. But when suddenly billions of new dollars hit that economy in the forms of loans, defense contracts, investments, social programs, bonuses, this fills the pockets of specific groups of people and organizations with millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars. You might otherwise know this strategy as quantitative easing, or QE, so they like to call it. When you hear about the Fed conducting quantitative easing, they're talking about printing more money and giving it to specific groups of people, usually not the hardworking middle class. So let's recap. The Fed prints currency. It gives it to corporations and governments. This creates loans. Then the taxpayer bears the responsibility for these loans and interest. And while our median income remains the same, the income of banksters, politicians, and CEOs skyrockets. Because currency is flooding the markets, the purchasing power for the existing money already in the system decreases. This sends prices for hard assets higher and higher, making it harder for those with median incomes to afford purchasing things like a home, a car, and even things like bread and gasoline. So next time you hear somebody mentioning inflation, make sure they know the truth behind why the prices of goods and services are getting more expensive. For now, this is Dean with Defending Your Finances. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click on the little bell icon to be notified when we upload future videos. We're uploading new content every week, giving you information that is going to be hard to find anywhere else. Our commitment is to provide you with information you need to make great financial decisions and help you to identify scams and the frauds in the industry. Stick with me and I'll reveal to you the truth that few people know and nobody in the industry talks about. Thank you for watching. God bless you and your families.